Protests in Israel are intensifying after the country's parliament passed a controversial bill. It limits the power of the Supreme Court to overturn government decisions. The move is part of a broader judicial overhaul by Israel's far-right government. Critics say it will give the ultra-nationalists and religious parties that make up the government unchecked power to shape policy. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with more on this. Hey, Raf, good morning. So what are the protests like today? We also understand doctors there are striking in response. Tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. The protests continue, the divisions continue, and this is what the front page of all the major Israeli newspapers look like today. It is all black, and it just says in small letters at the bottom there, a dark day for Israeli democracy. Now, this is an ad paid for by a tech organization aligned with the protesters, but it expresses the feeling of a lot of people in Israel today. As you said, those protests continuing overnight. Demonstrators were blocking major roads, police using water cannon to try to dislodge them. One woman we spoke to yesterday, she had tears in her eyes. She said she did not know what she is going to tell her children about their country's future. But Savannah, it is worth saying there is another perspective on this, that of Netanyahu and his allies. The prime minister saying last night this was a necessary reform to curb the power of unelected judges and make it so that the democratically elected government could carry out the agenda that the people wanted them to. The doctors' union, as you said, is also on strike today, which means it is almost impossible to get anything other than emergency health care in Israel today. Savannah.
What a visual, Raf, there with that newspaper ad. Tell us, so how are opposition leaders planning to challenge this new law? I mean, is there any chance the Supreme Court strikes it down?
Yeah, we're really kind of entering uncharted constitutional waters here. The opposition has gone to the Supreme Court, and they have asked the judges there to strike down the law, weakening the Supreme Court. And nobody, Savannah, from Netanyahu to the constitutional scholars we speak to the protesters on the streets, knows what happens if the court does that. This country could be facing a full-blown constitutional crisis at that point. It's going to be at least a couple of weeks before we understand whether the court is taking up the petition, what kind of speed it is moving toward on in terms of the case. But it is a very deeply divided country in Israel right now, probably more divided than in any other point in its 75-year history.
And Raf, back here in the U.S., I understand we got some reaction from the White House yesterday. What is the Biden administration saying about all this?
Yeah, it's been really unusual watching the White House regularly weighing in on what you could argue is the internal politics of an American ally. Before the vote, President Biden pleading with Prime Minister Netanyahu to hit pause on this legislation, not to go through with it given the divisions. I want you to take a listen to what the White House press secretary had to say yesterday after the vote passed.
It is unfortunate that the vote today took place with the slimmest possible majority. The United States, we will continue to support the efforts of President Herzog and other Israeli leaders as they seek to build a broader consensus through political dialogue. That's what we're going to continue to support, and we understand that the conversation is ongoing.
Now, Savannah, you heard discontent there from the White House. What you notably did not hear is any threats from the White House that it would take any action on this, including potentially cutting off military aid to Israel. Savannah.
All right, Raf Sanchez, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.